Hello, I'm seeing many foreigners coming to Paraguay and I'm seeing new videos, new YouTube channels and everything. So I wanted to make a video to help you guys with your Guarani pronunciation to impress other Paraguayans. And I'm making this video in English because you can already find videos like this in Spanish and Portuguese and so on. And I can use some English practice too. And yeah, when I'm learning a new language, I'm very interested in learning the accent, the pronunciation, and that stuff. Sadly, my English accent is not very good, but I've learned French. Je parle français aussi. Je l'apprends depuis janvier 2024, plus ou moins. And I'm currently learning German. Ich kann auch Deutsch, aber es ist nicht gut genug, dieses Thema zu erklären. Also, let's stick to English. And like I said, I'm very interested in this topic, so I have a few tips. I thought of two sounds and one group of sounds that can really help you guys with your Guarani pronunciation. So let's go right ahead. So the first sound that I thought of is the sound. And this sound is everywhere in Guarani. The sound by itself already means something. So if you're saying just it means water. So very important. And basically, anytime you see a Y, that's it represents the sound So like water, s like mother, v like earth, and j it's again, and many words. But how do we make this sound? You can think of it as like a dark E sound. What do I mean by a dark E? So in English, there are two L sounds. One is sometimes called a light L, and the other one is called sometimes the dark L. Let's take the word loyal, for example. Loyal. You notice that the first L is not exactly the same as the second L in this word. So loyal, is like towards the back of the mouth and a little bit lower. The transition from the normal E to the dark E is kind of similar to make the sound, the Guarani Y sound. So basically start pronouncing an E, and now move your tongue towards the back of your mouth. So E, that's on the front. Now I'm going to pronounce the same sound, but with my tongue towards the back. So E, E, You notice? It's the same. I'm pronouncing the same sound, but my tongue is towards the back. And that's the sound in Guarani. And like I said, it's everywhere, so it's very important. And if you're able to produce this sound, you're gonna pronounce Guarani words much better. So that's the first sound. And the second sound, it's actually a glottal stop. What's a glottal stop? To make a glottal stop or to produce a glottal stop, your vocal cords have to close suddenly and then open again. And many languages use a lot of glottal stops. Romance languages, not as much, but English does it. German does it a lot. And let's say an example. For example, let's take the expression uh-oh. You notice that there's a little pause between and o. And if you repeat this expression and pay attention, you'll notice that there's like you can notice your vocal cords closing suddenly in your throat. So uh-oh, and that's a glottal stop. And for example, for people from the UK or from certain parts of the UK, in some dialects, when an American would say water, some people in the UK would say wa'a, or instead of butter, they would say ba'a. And those are also glottal stops. It's the same thing happening. For German speakers, for example, in the word beobachten, when there's a syllable and when a syllable ends and the other one starts with a vowel, then they use a glottal stop. So it's not beobachten, it's beobachten. It's the vocal cords have to close after the first syllable. And in Guarani, we actually have a letter to represent this sound. And it's a sign, it's like an apostrophe, but it counts as a letter. And every time we have this apostrophe, it means there's a glottal stop there. So that's the difference between saying that something burned, for example, and saying monkey. So okai, it burned. Kai, that's monkey. So do you hear the difference? Okai, kai. Okai, kai. There's a puso, so there's a glottal stop. And every time you see this letter, there's a glottal stop. For example, in a basic greeting like ba'eshapa, ba'eshapa. You've probably heard this. There's a puso between the first syllable and then the rest of the word. So it's ba'eshapa, not ba'eshapa, ba'eshapa. You have to make the little pause. And we can also notice, just as a little tip, if you only say the B instead of the mb, mbe, so ba'eshapa, not ba'eshapa. You have to before you ba, so ba'eshapa. It's for a split second, but it's also important. But remember, anytime you see this puso, it means there's a glottal stop. And that's the second sound. And now let's talk about the group of sounds that I mentioned. And they are the nasal vowels. Maybe you've heard of nasal vowels. I know people in other countries sometimes take French in school, and French has nasal vowels, but lots of languages have nasal sounds, at least. Even English does it. Depending on the dialect, there are more, but for example, simple sound like ng, like in sing, sing, the last ng, it's a nasal sound. And basically what's happening to make a nasal sound is that air is going through your nose when you're pronouncing this sound. So let's take, for example, the vowel a. This is a oral vowel, and this is a nasal vowel, so You notice the difference in sound, but something very funny, like to actually check if you're doing a nasal sound, is that nasal sounds get affected when you cover your nose because the air doesn't get through very well. So let's take an oral vowel, and I'm gonna cover my nose, so and it won't get affected. So same thing. But let's take so you notice it changes. And try to say sing covering your nose is very difficult. So sing. You cannot, it's difficult. And yeah, so basically remember, to make a nasal sound, air has to get through your nose. And it's easier said than done, but it's something that you have to practice and notice. Like try to get air through your nose, like in the word sing. You're actually doing it. You notice that your tongue is going a little bit higher to get some air through your nose. It's kind of similar what you have to do to make a nasal vowel. So you have to practice. It's, like I said, easier said than done, but it's something that you can absolutely do. And in Guarani, we have 6 nasal vowels. So we have the oral vowels, a, e, I, o, u, like in Spanish, and we add the u that we talked about at the start, and we can make all of those nasal. So a, e, I, o, u, something like that. So something that you'll have to practice. And Guarani has many nasal sounds. In Guarani, we have an accent to let you know that a vowel or even a consonant is nasal. So it's very important even to count, for example, the numbers petein, mocoin, and many other words have. Anytime you see this accent, you have to remember that's a nasal sound, so air has to get through your nose. And that's the group of sounds that I wanted to mention, and it's very important for good Guarani pronunciation. So to summarize everything, first we went through the sound, and remember it's like a dark E. It's not actually called like that, but it's because the transition from the light L to the dark L in English is kind of similar. So remember, you have to have your tongue to the back of your mouth and pronounce an E. So E, U. And now you have the U sound. Very important. Second, we saw the glottal stop, which is represented by the puso. Also very important. Now you can say ba'eshapa correctly. And remember, anytime you see the puso, that's a glottal stop. And lastly, we went through the nasal vowels, which, like I said, it's easier said than done. Get some air through your nose when you're pronouncing them, and you can practice the sounds covering your nose to see if they change. And if they change, you're actually producing a nasal sound. So yeah, those are the sounds I wanted to share. And to be honest, my Guarani is not very good. I can understand almost everything, I can read, but don't ask me to carry a meaningful conversation in Guarani. It's a difficult language, so props to you if you're learning. So yeah, I'm actually a Spanish tutor. So if you're interested, you can see my profile in the description. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and see you on another video.